Hi boys and girls, do you remember I was telling you last time about that young lady called Mary? Here she is again, and you can see there's a handsome young man with her as well. You see, Mary loved a man named Joseph, and they were going to get married. Woo! Well, one day Joseph had to take a trip to the city of Bethlehem. Now, Nazareth is way up in the north where they live. Bethlehem is quite far down. I googled it. It's about 90 miles. And even today in a car, if you were going quite quickly, it would take you about 2.5 hours to drive there. So back in their days, they didn't have any cars or trains or buses. It must have taken them quite a long time. So Joseph had to go to Bethlehem. Mary went with him. But oh dear boys and girls, when they got there, Bethlehem was really full. There were lots of visitors. Many people had come there. Joseph and Mary, they looked for somewhere to stay, but there was no room in any of the inns or the B&Bs or the houses. People said, no vacancies. You can't stay here. All the beds were full. People were even sleeping on the floors. So poor Joseph and Mary had to stay that night in a stable. Somewhere where the donkeys and the horses and maybe a few cattle stayed. I wonder how you would like sleeping in the stable. I think it might be a bit cold, maybe a little bit damp and not terribly comfortable. But that's where they had to stay that night. And guess what? That night, Mary's baby was born. Now there were no doctors, no nice nurses to help. They were all on their own. But the baby was born, and this was God's baby son. Mary and Joseph named him Jesus, just like the angel Gabriel, do you remember him, had told them to do. And they wrapped him up as best they could so that he would be warm. And then they got some nice clean straw and they put it in a manger and they laid baby Jesus in the manger. And that's where he slept his first night here on earth. He was God's son, but he slept out in a stable in a manger in the hay. Mary loved him, Joseph loved him, and God loved him too. What a wonderful thing we're celebrating, that God's own son would come down to earth and be born, even in a cold stable. That's how much he loves us. We'll learn more again soon.